Okay, we're going to end the evening with something short about European Leadership Forum. And I know that a number of you know quite a lot about European Leadership Forum already, and we are so thankful for those of you who have been over and visited Europe and being volunteers at the conference, and we are so happy for the support from Sunset and for the relationship with Jay. European Leadership Forum is an important evangelical ministry in Europe. And here you have a picture of Europe. 44 countries, 750 million people, nearly 10% of the world's population. And this is a NASA photo. Stockholm is up there in the north. Do I have? No, I don't. Maybe. No. Okay. If you take this picture, this is during the night, so it's the light from the cities all over Europe is lighting up the continent. If you take that as a metaphor for the gospel, the light of the gospel, Europe have played a really central role historically for the spread of the gospel. So if you think historically, of course, everything started in Jerusalem. The gospel went out in all different directions. Thomas took it to India. The Ethiopian who studied Isaiah 53, he took it down to Africa. Paul took the gospel through Turkey into Greece, into Europe. So it was spreading in all different directions. After the year 70, when Jerusalem fell, the kind of power center for the Christian movement moved into Europe. And for nearly 2,000 years, Europe was the kind of homeland for Christian mission. And out from Europe, the gospel was spread to so many different countries. And of course, there was ups and downs and a lot of problems and state churches and corruption. And there was also revival and renewal of the church in Europe. But Europe was the kind of home ground for the Christian faith. But then, during the last century, the lights have started to go out in Europe. If you can imagine all those lights there, just becoming darker and darker. And the continent who have exported the gospel all over the world has become the most secular part of the globe and is now exporting secularism all over the world. Europe has had this strange role of being a powerhouse of ideas. If you think of America, you are, of course, world leading in technology and finance and in entertainment. In terms of spreading ideas all over the world, for many hundred years, it's been Europe. Of course, originally the Christian faith. But you can then think of all the different movements of the Renaissance, of the Enlightenment, of Marxism, of postmodernism that we have talked about. What is that? That is all European ideas starting in Europe and then spreading to different parts of the world. And what's happening now is that the secular ideas of Europe are spreading all over the world. Europe receives many more foreign students than US, for example. So young people from all over the world come to the famous universities of Europe to study, and they are infected by the secular ideas. They go back to their home countries and become, of course, very influential leaders, since they have exams from Oxford and Cambridge and Sorbonne and other famous universities, and they are bringing the destructive ideas of secularism to their home countries. So you see, the title is, Why is Europe Strategic for the Gospel? It's not only that Europe needs to have the gospel back, it's actually a global issue to get the Church of Europe back on its feet, and so we can stop the spread of secularism at its root. And that is behind the European Leadership Forum. We want to give a response in Europe to what has happened in Europe. The turning point in Europe is related to what's called the Enlightenment. The 18th century intellectual movement is that there is no God. We need to get rid of God, Christianity. We cannot trust the Bible any longer. And that put the Christian church under strong pressure in Europe. A lot of Christians left the Christian faith, converted to agnosticism or atheism. Other Christians adopted the new ideas, and liberal Christianity was born, where people don't believe in the miraculous any longer, don't believe in the inspiration of the Bible, don't believe in a physical resurrection, and so on. And that has undermined so much of the churches in Europe. And too many evangelicals who hold on to the faith and hold on to the Bible retreated into pietism, to more isolate themselves from culture and not being influencing the culture any longer. That is the background for European Leadership Forum. The vision for European Leadership Forum is to evangelize Europe again and to renew the biblical church. All over Europe there are still evangelical churches, there are still evangelical leaders, but a lot of them have lost vision. A lot of them are isolated from other leaders. A lot of them are discouraged because of what has happened the last century of decline within the Christian community. And we want to see something new happen. The strategy of the forum is to unite, equip, and resource evangelical leaders. So we work with leaders on the ground to help them to find each other, to start to build relationships. Historically, because of denominational differences, a lot of evangelicals are not in relationship with each other, do not work together, do not encourage each other. So we work with uniting and then equipping and resourcing evangelical leaders all over Europe. And every year now, 700-800 evangelical leaders from 40 countries, from almost every country in Europe. Leaders from Russia cannot come any longer, unfortunately. But basically from all countries in Europe are coming together and are standing together with this vision. A key part of what we are doing is that we don't have a model that we try to impress on people from above, but we're working out from what we call the forum question, and that is, we ask leaders, what has the Lord called you to do? And challenge people to define what they think is the Lord's calling for them. And then we ask, how can we help you to fulfill your calling? And we have seen immense results of this. There is now a strong movement of evangelical leaders in Europe. Originally, it started 25 years ago with what we have been talking about tonight, persuasive evangelism, apologists, but gradually it has grown from one network, gathering, uniting apologists, to now 30, so it's more than on the screen, 30 different networks of all kinds of ministries that are coming together to see what can we do for the church in Europe. And it's been just amazing to see what God has been doing. The visible thing of the forum is a huge conference in Poland, late May every year, 800 people coming together for a number of days. And we have had the joy of welcoming a number of you as volunteers to help with that conference. But that conference is just the tip of the iceberg. Out from that conference, many hundreds of events are taking place every year. local events, regional events, national events, where evangelicals are taking new initiatives, are starting to work together. And things are really happening. We have seen real changes. Things have started to move also in Europe. There's a lot of challenges, there's a lot of problems, but it's moving in the right direction. And I love to give this example. We have been working with church planting and help different church planting movements in Europe. For decades, there were very little church planting going on in Europe. And you can understand the mentality. There have been churches for some places 2,000 years, other places 1,000 years. There are churches all over the countries, but in many cases with no people. It's just buildings. But finally, evangelicals have started more strategically and systematically to plant churches. And it's really visible. This is the UK newspaper, The Guardian. The headline is, "For secular and Catholic France, a shock to the system, the rise of the evangelicals." Historically, in France, the president, when addressed the Christian communities in France, have talked about Roman Catholicism, the biggest church, and then Protestants, which stands for the liberal Christians in France. A few years ago, for the first time, President Macron addressed 3 different Christian groups in France: Roman Catholics, Protestants, the liberal Christians, and evangelicals. So it's reconcilable. They see something new is happening. In the field I am working and called to, apologetics. 25 years ago, very little were happening in Europe. Now there are apologetic ministries in many different places, and people are working with persuasive evangelists. I will go to a conference for university evangelists in a few weeks' time, where there will be a huge number of university evangelists, and we will be training people there together. So a lot of things are happening in many, many different areas. So that was just a few examples. We couldn't do this without help from a lot of people. We couldn't do it without help from American Christians. If you are interested in following what's happening in the work, you can be involved in different ways. Above all, you can pray for us as God's people in Europe. Pray for revival and renewal and courage for Christians in Europe. We do really need that. You can follow the work. If you go to focalonline.org, you can fill in your email address and you will have a newsletter. It costs nothing, but you can follow what's happening and have updates, different things. On Focal Online, you can also listen to the teaching from ELF. All teaching is recorded, both audio and video. So there are hundreds and hundreds of really interesting lectures on all kinds of different subjects. And it's all for free. It's all for free. Europe is divided between East and West. For a long time, the East was under communism, and economically, that stopped the development, of course, of Eastern Europe. And still, there's a huge difference in terms of financial resources between East and West. In order to make it possible for evangelical leaders from Eastern Europe to come to the conference, they need scholarship. Many of them work as pastors and leaders with extremely low salary. And one really important way, if you want to help us, is to help us with scholarship for leaders from Eastern Europe. And we have been promised a matching grant for scholarship. So if you contribute to scholarship, there is someone who will match that contribution. So it will be the double effect. And if you want, you can come as a volunteer. Every year, a good number of Americans are coming as volunteers, and they are the ones making the conference possible, help us to run the conference. You have some material on your table that describes more of what's going on with ELF.